I am liberty. I am the living symbol of all women, creeds, and races. I am the hopes and dreams of all mankind. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send them, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift the lamp beside the golden door.
We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
For 20 years, first the French and then the United States have been predicting victory in Vietnam. In 1961 and in 1962, as well as 1966 and 1967, we have been told that the tide is turning. We have been wrong. The history of conflict among nations does not record another such lengthy and consistent chronicle of error as we have shown in Vietnam. It is time to discard so proven a fallacy and face the reality that a military...
My fellow Americans, not long ago I received a letter from a woman in the Midwest. She wrote, "Dear Mr. President, in my humble way I am writing to you about the crisis in Vietnam. I have a son who is now in Vietnam. My husband served in World War II. Our country was at war. But now, this time, it's just something that I don't understand. Why?"
Remember what the president said about Uncle Sam already spending at the rate of $100 million a day on this war? That's a lot in anybody's language. Production is rolling, and every day new production lines are swinging into action.
Freeman Hota has been named to rule the Dominican Republic, and U.S. Marines were ordered into the country.
Our role is to help the Lebanese put their country together.
U.S. forces are engaged in action in Panama.
To eject the Iraqi army from Kuwait.
Armed forces joined our NATO allies in airstrikes against Serbian forces.
In recent months, we have bombed Serbia, Bulgaria, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Sudan, Iraq, and China.
We've got to double it. Make it $200 million a day.
Our war on terror begins with Al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. If Saddam Hussein does not fully disarm, for the safety of our people and for the peace of the world, we will lead a coalition to disarm him.
Gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses, evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction, in the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh, Lord, yeah.
Now, this all comes as Beijing takes even more extreme measures to try to contain the virus. The central bank has devised a plan to deep clean China's cash. So the way this works is that cash is going to be sanitized with UV light, and then for 7 days, it'll be quarantined for most of the parts of China. But in the epicenter, the quarantine will be for 14 days. And then money that is in hospitals or comes from the market or for public transportation at the epicenter is going to be destroyed. And by that, I mean, state media say that the money will be shredded, and then it's going to be packed into bricks and then sent to the local power plant where it's going to be incinerated and then turned into energy.
This is me using my face to get into a convenience store in China where you can buy food through facial recognition technology. Using your face to buy food is already a reality. Here's one system that KFC and Chinese search engine giants Baidu implemented in China. KFC's system even remembers your face and food preferences so it can better recommend you new products. Much like KFC, this convenience store we visited in the city of Shenzhen has partnered with a tech giant, in this case, the payment app WeChat Pay, to create an experimental face-to-food experience. The store, Zhouheiya, encourages people to play and pay with facial recognition technology. With just your face and a simple thumbs up, the system will deduct money from your linked WeChat account.
Making my mobile payment, my facial recognition juice.
I come get this.
This may feel very dystopian, but facial recognition has apparently been a welcomed advancement in big cities in China.
So in China, the facial recognition is quite popular. In some scenarios, we try those face recognition techniques. So you don't have need to bring your mobile phone anymore. You simply show up and you take things away and it will directly be deducted from your account.
To grasp how close China is to making facial recognition a reality, you first have to understand how close they already are to being a cashless society. Much of this has to do with WeChat Pay and its competitor Alipay, which both use QR codes to complete transactions. According to Professor Oh Yang, in 2017, mobile payment transactions in China added up to $20 trillion, almost double China's annual GDP. WeChat is what's known as a super app. You can send money, text friends, make dinner reservations, and much more all in one space. And this makes WeChat indispensable to everyday life.
即係話我哋咧，大部分人都係用緊微信。微信支付咧係一個好神奇嘅嘢。
This is my cousin, a Shenzhen native, and I roped him in to give us his perspective on how ubiquitous WeChat has become.
我平時出去都唔帶銀包㗎啦，銀包太大隻啦，冇手機咁方便。我手機可以代替到銀包所有功能。
QR codes, WeChat Pay, and Alipay have become the norm.
你可以喺路邊停車嘅時候交費。 或者你甚至可以處理你嘅交通違法。
These payment apps are so powerful that they have the potential to replace banks for the users.
For example, you can borrow money on your WeChat app. If I press this, they will evaluate your credit profile.
This amount is the equivalent of an $8,000 loan. WeChat has become so ubiquitous in China that many people prefer it to traditional banking, despite these loans being backed by actual financial institutions. Analysts in China predict that about 40% of those transaction fees could go to payment apps like WeChat by 2020, leaving China's banks in a scramble.
The bank are annoyed because they only see numbers of money goes to Alibaba, go to WeChat. Those bank senior officials talk to me, considering different ways of how to compete with those new institutions. And so far, they don't come up with very good ideas, but we're still trying.
With the wide use of QR codes and mobile payment apps, Professor Ouyang sees facial recognition as the obvious next step. But convenience is just the silver lining in what could be a sophisticated form of mass surveillance. Already in Shenzhen, facial recognition is being used to catch jaywalkers. 3 fugitives were caught at massive concerts this year through facial recognition technology. And in the highly policed province of Xinjiang, facial recognition is used to track Muslim Uyghurs.
There's a rumor that China is the safest country in the world. In Shenzhen, when you walk in the street, you'll see a lot of cameras. It sounds like a police state, right? But in China, if you don't do anything wrong, what do you fear?
Traveling in China has become nearly impossible without the use of QR codes and mobile payment apps. And a future with facial recognition may not be that far off.
一般如果你而家係想用現金嘅話咧，係一啲小鋪頭嗰度，你攞一張100蚊嘅出嚟，佢甚至冇散紙可以找你，係。
And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
When Helios Boatbuilder goes to work, he doesn't need ID. And he doesn't need money. In fact, much of what he needs to get through the day is hidden right there, just below the surface, in his hand.
Like touch it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, weird. Yeah, it's like a grain of rice.
Yeah, a grain of rice.
Embedded in his hand is a microchip that serves as his keys, his ID, and his wallet.
Yeah, it's all in the chip. So I use it like to get around the building.
Buy snacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's buy some snacks. So I can't open it.
No.
Okay.
So what I need to do is I need to first blip my chip, and it will log me in, and from there I get access to the fridge.
Popular TV shows like Black Mirror have imagined chips as part of a dystopian future.
Install ingrained procedure with local anesthetic, and you're good to go.
In Sweden, the microchips are already here.
The microchip implants use the same technology that's in contactless credit cards,
which have made cash pretty much obsolete in Sweden.
No cash.
At this tech fair, a chipping event for those on the cutting edge, merging their hands with this new technology.
I thought it would be fun, right?
The process is simple and swift. A pinch of the skin, and in a matter of seconds, the chip is inserted. Transformation is complete. As for the pain,
I barely felt it.
But even in this nation of early adopters, not everyone is racing to get chipped.
Feel less human. I will feel like a robot.
I think, it's so much more data can go into this, when it's in your body.
There's no central registry tracking how many people are chipped, but biohacker Hannes Wellblood estimates between 5,000 and 10,000.
In the future, do you think everyone is going to be chipped?
I think it will be voluntary, but I am certainly convinced that millions of people will find it very, very valuable to have a smart device under their skin.
Human microchipping may be our future, but in Sweden, it's already reality. Sarah Harman, NBC News, Stockholm.
Arguably, one of the most commonly discussed natural signs in the end days is the dramatic increase of earthquakes around the world, something that in geological time would be statistically unprecedented if it were actually happening during what many believe is the last generation.
That in the last days there'd be an increase in great earthquakes. Jesus used verbiage that means bigger earthquakes in unusual places. We're looking at things regarding, for example, greater hurricanes, greater typhoons, things that in nature you can sense that things are coming undone. And yet if you looked at it naturally, you would say, well, this is due to global warming, or this is due to man's bad stewardship of the earth. But yet the Bible said as we approached the end, this is exactly what we would see, which, by the way, that preempts man's involvement.
The scriptures do tell us that earthquakes, specifically earthquakes, will increase in frequency and in intensity.
But wait a minute. Hasn't the U.S. Geological Survey, or USGS, gone on record to state that this is not occurring, that no such increase in earthquakes have been detected around the world?
Because this is such a debated topic, the USGS gave a press release saying that this was not occurring. As a result, we actually decided to take the USGS data, millions of data points, spent months downloading it, analyzing it, graphing it, studying it. The results were absolutely terrifying.
Despite what you may have heard in the past, this is the compiled data from the USGS from over the last 100 years. Keep in mind that we're not talking about the millions of micro-tremors that can now be detected from the distribution of more numerous and sensitive sensors, but strictly data from the larger earthquakes that can be felt by people beginning at 6.3 and up on the Richter scale, that could be easily detected by early 19th century sensors from virtually anywhere in the world. This data shows what the USGS and other organizations do not want you to see.
It shows that the earthquakes are increasing in intensity and they are increasing in frequency. This is exactly the description that was prophesied.
Good evening. The World Health Organization says Europe is now the epicenter of the global coronavirus pandemic. The news emerged as organized sport, both professional and amateur, across much of the UK, came to a standstill because of the outbreak. The Premier League, English Football League and Scottish matches have all been halted until the 3rd of April. In rugby, all Six Nations matches have been cancelled this weekend, and next month's London Marathon has been postponed. In the UK, 798 people have now been infected, up by 208 since yesterday. But it's thought the actual number may be much higher. 11 people have now died here, and the government says it expects more deaths in the weeks and months to come. We'll have more on an extraordinary day for sport in a moment, but first, here's our medical correspondent, Fergus Walsh.
This is Italy, one of the most advanced healthcare systems in the world. In the northern city of Brescia, they're reduced to treating patients in warehouses and tents because of coronavirus. Italy has the worst outbreak by far in Europe, but other countries are catching up.
Europe has now become the epicenter of the pandemic, with more reported cases and deaths than the rest of the world combined, apart from China.
Denmark announced it is closing its borders to foreigners from tomorrow. Nearly a dozen European countries have now imposed border controls. In Spain, a state of emergency will come into effect tomorrow, which could see restrictions on movement. The Foreign Office has advised against all but essential travel to Madrid and some other regions. France announced it is limiting gatherings to no more than 100 people. The Eiffel Tower and other key monuments and museums will close. A shutdown of schools will last at least 2 weeks. All of Europe wants to avoid scenes like these in Italy, but the UK's approach is in stark contrast to measures taken elsewhere.
And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
God is here on earth.
I am the second coming of Christ, that Messiah that they've been waiting for.
Jose Luis de Jesus Miranda claims to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, and his followers believe every word.
Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
Jesus Christ is returned, but only this time in Brazil. For more than 30 years, this man, calling himself Henri Cristo, has preached his own gospel as a supposed reincarnation of Jesus of Nazareth.
Take heed that ye be not deceived. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. And the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them.
On this one, the leader of the Catholic Church suggesting that the Lord's Prayer, the best-known prayer in Christianity, which is prayed by not thousands, as I said earlier, but 2.2 billion people around the world, may undergo a little bit of an edit. He says the phrase, lead us not into temptation, suggests that God induces temptation in his followers, and do not let us fall into temptation would be more acceptable and closer to the original meaning of the prayer.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrow. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Behold, I have told you before. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors.
The resolution was adopted by 33 votes, 13 against, 10 abstentions.
On May 14, 1948, the British government terminated its Palestine mandate, and on May 15, 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared the independent state of Israel.
עומד ברשות עצמו במדינתו הריבונית, אשר תפתח לרווחה את שערי המולדת לכל יהודי, ותעניק לעם היהודי מעמד של אומה בת זכויות בתוך העמים. תוקף זכותנו הטבעית וההיסטורית ועל יסוד החלטת עצרת האומות המאוחדות אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל.
Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noe were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noe entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came, and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noe entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came, and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch, therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant, whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. And if that evil servant shall say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.